Scrapyard. I am your host, the Hame Train, Hamish, and this is my co-host, Max. How are you today, my fine fellow?
I'm a bit hungover. I mean, I didn't drink, but I was tired, so I woke up at midnight and watched Boom. Well, I didn't wake up because I couldn't sleep, but I had to watch Boomtown to get me to fall asleep.
Oh. Okay. And today we're talking about the Big Finish audio drama, The Stones of Venice.
Yeah. So, who was this written by Holson?
Paul Mars, and it was directed by Gary Russell again.
If we just start off, what did you think?
Oh yeah, I thought this was good. I guess we'll get to the ranking later, but I think it's good. I liked the sort of sense of melancholy in the story, and I thought it had some interesting ideas with the sort of cult and like curse aspects. It didn't blow me away, but it was good.
Yeah, it was more solid than Storm Warning. I'm not sure if it was quite as good as Sword of Orion, but
Yeah, I think I'd probably put it in the middle of it.
quite solid.
Yeah.
So, do you want to get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we start amidst the chaos and the Doctor and Charlie have sort of like started this revolution on the planet. And they're like being harassed and the Doctor's like, oh, why are you such a dickhead? Like, we liberated these guys and they're like telling us to piss off. And then they're like, okay, we need a break. And so they go to Venice.
I think we're meant to assume that some time has passed between Sword of Orion and the Stones of Venice.
Yeah, because sort of at the end of this story the Doctor's like, oh, you're my best friend, Charlie.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have just happened out of nowhere because like surely Sarah Jane would be his best friend. But anyway, I thought this was sort of a bit like the opening of The Caretaker. How like it was going about.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, this was kind of like a new thing for Doctor Who because the classic series never did this sort of like adventure before the opening titles thing.
Yeah.
So it's cool that.
Yeah, this might have been a pre-title stinger, sort of the very first, maybe. I don't know, like the.
Yeah.
But and sort of across this whole story, more sort of Doctor-like characteristics emerge in the Eighth Doctor. Like he sort of gets his sort of charismatic snark wittiness sort of thing, because like he always wants the final word. Like because when he was going away from this place that he started a revolution, he like was about to dematerialize, and then he like ran back over to the door and opened it. He's like, I don't like how you treat your tourists, and then he like slammed the door. So there's that sort of witty snark that's coming across more so than it did in the movie or the last two audios we've listened to.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, and you can kind of see how like the TV movie and Night of the Doctor are the two paradigms, but like you can kind of see how we've started off with the TV movie and we're edging towards the Night of the Doctor kind of smart talking Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it was good.
Yeah, something that I really liked about the story was the setting as well.
Yeah, that was good.
I thought it was clever to have like this, like sort of almost like sort of gothic-esque story, but set in the future.
Yeah, with kings, and they all talked in funny, like Shakespearean ways, which is kind of a bit weird.
Yeah, it was a nice sort of subversion of expectations, and just the setting of Venice is a really interesting one, especially like Venice when it's about to sink.
Yeah, and they continue to develop the Doctor's love for tea in this episode. I think you mentioned it about 8 times.
Yeah, it's like a bloody romance.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame him. Tea is bloody fantastic, but yeah, we've continued to sort of develop the Charlie Pollard story arc that was kickstarted in Storm Warning. There was this piece of dialogue where, like, Charlie, when they were just sort of chatting, and Charlie was like, "Oh, I don't know what my family are going to make of you when you take me back," and she's like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, when I take you back," she sort of hints towards her having to be dropped back on the R101, maybe.
Yeah. Charlie gets a lot more to do in this story than she did in Sword of Orion or Storm Warning, probably.
Yeah, it balances the companion and the Doctor sort of different tasks quite well.
Yeah, something that I've noticed in all of these three is that they always separate the Doctor and the companion.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see when they like sort of do a story that's actually just them together the whole time.
Have you started listening to the next story?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. Now, how early did you pick that this old woman was... So, just to give the audience a bit of a backstory if they haven't actually listened to the episode. There's this whole sort of curse in that the king, like, bet away his beloved, like, wife or lover or whatever on a game of cards. And, like, and then
his wife was, like, sick of him, so she killed herself.
Yeah, and cursed Venice to sink and made him like stay old enough to watch it sink in 100 years.
Yeah.
And then we sort of introduced this. Yeah, and then after we learned that from Churchwell, or even before, yeah, we learned that after we meet this old woman. But how early on did you pick that this woman was Estella?
Like as soon as like she started hanging around, like I
Yeah,
thought she was just gonna be like the character in that like that one scene
yeah,
at the beginning, but then when she kept hanging around, I was like, ah,
yeah. I kind of thought, well, what's this woman's purpose in the story? Yes, you can have interesting side characters, but there's probably like there's a lot of prominence going to this old woman that feels a bit wasted if she's not important. So she's probably Estella.
Also, in the sort of like credits on the Big Finish app, she was like third build or something. So I was like, she's got to be important.
Oh, I didn't look at I didn't look at the credits. So I listened to it on Spotify because I'm cheap.
Yeah.
I thought that the old woman was kind of a bit of a funny Meryl Streep Little Women type character. She was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a bit over dramatic at times, but that's the vibe that I think Venice was going for in this story. So it was good.
The head of the cultists in the story, I can't remember his name, but he sounded like he was doing kind of like a Christopher Lee impression.
Oh, you reckon?
He sounded a lot like Christopher Lee.
Maybe it was him.
But
Going into the Big Finish. But yeah. So Charlie and the Doctor sort of want to have a break, and so they go to Venice and they find out about this curse, and they're wandering around, and there's these gondolier people who everyone calls like amphibians and like disgusting toads and stuff.
Yeah, basically they're like the guy from The Shape of Water.
Yeah, but
That's how I imagine them.
I just imagine them as people with gills.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now I have noticed that this Doctor seems to have precognitive abilities. Because like he met Churchwell, the curator of the art gallery, and then he immediately like tell his story, which is also the same in the TV movie when he like goes to Grace Holloway. Oh, you always wanted to be a doctor to save people from death.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like, are we supposed to think he has precognitive abilities? Do you think?
I don't know. Like, I feel like it's almost sort of continuing on the thread from the classic series because like sort of like around season 26, the Seventh Doctor starts having a lot of sort of psychic abilities. He can send someone to sleep by just touching them. And
that sort of continues over to the new series as well when the Tenth Doctor wipes Donna's mind and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I think there's like something like going on.
But hopefully that'll come. Maybe it's just a background thing, or maybe it'll come to fruition.
Yeah.
But so the Doctor meets this guy with the art gallery, Churchwell, and there's all these paintings, and the Doctor's sort of saying, "Oh, I can take them away in the TARDIS. The Venice is sinking. It's bad. We should save these great artworks." And that sort of gets forgotten about a little bit for the rest of the story. But it turns out Venice doesn't sink because the old woman was Estella, and the Duke and her managed to balance the magic of the curse out, and they were both dying, and so Venice is no longer sinking.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like there was a balance. Like they could die. They would both die, and Venice would live, or they would both live and Venice would sink. So because they both sort of kept each other alive.
Yeah.
Estella kept him and her alive for magic and made Venice sink with life force, the balance of magic and that sort of stuff. It's very scientific. Yeah, I thought the soundscape was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I felt like the music in the festival scenes of this was really strong.
Actually, that's the other thing. I really liked the music in this episode, like the piano bits as
well. And the banjo or like the ukulele or whatever it was. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Doctor gets the Doctor and Churchill get kidnapped by the cult of Stella, and that sort of they take into the place of worship because she was like the divine, like the oyster of Venice. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it.
The oyster of Venice.
Well, like the divine, like the divine person in Venice. So there's a cult that worshipped her, the oyster of Venice.
Yeah.
And so there was this casket that she was supposedly in, and the Doctor, being the disrespectful bastard that he is, he just opens it and he's like, "Oh, she's not in there." And then they kind of play this cult for a bit, and there's just like a lot of there's a bit too much running around.
Yeah.
It was never boring, but it just sort of felt that a lot of it felt a bit fillerish.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of going back and forth between places.
And I mean, the filler in this episode was better than the plot in Storm Warning, so it's fine. But like, yeah, I don't know. It just
This one, I think, more than the other two, is like probably more due to my just my taste. than other than like actually the quality of the writing, but I think it had a harder time holding my attention than the other two did.
Yeah, I mean, especially part 4 for me.
Yeah,
Like part 3, there was mystery, and part 4 it sort of pulled out all the plugs, and it just sort of became very much mandatory plot resolution as opposed to anything interesting with the story.
yeah, because you're only using one sense for like sort of big finish audios, it's easy for you to like sort of
Switch off.
to switch off, and so it has to kind of be like a really interesting story
Yeah, it
to
does.
keep you
Because like with the TV show,
interested.
if you've got nice direction and like the actors are making interesting facial expressions, and you've got cinematography that's really pretty, you can focus on that and drift away on that. But whereas this, you just sort of it's just sort of one sense.
Yeah,
So it's harder to sort of keep the focus. But I mean, I thought it was pretty good still. But yeah. But then we sort of run around and we go to the Charlie pretends to be Estella for this gondolier man she ran off with and abandoned the doctor.
yeah, that was a bit weird. That storyline.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and she's not really sure about traveling with the doctor. She doesn't really like all of this. I think she said she didn't really like all of this kind of violence and like misadventure that they've been doing. But yeah, I don't know if that was just a overarching thing or if that was just a little writer's comment that they put in the script. We'll have to see.
yeah,
Because I thought she was pretty okay with everything and sort of Orion.
yeah,
And then we run around for a bit. The king the Dutch discovers that the casket's empty in the domain of the Estella's worshippers. Then we run around for a bit. We discover the old woman's Estella, and then Estella's like, "Oh, I still love you, Mr. Dutch." So then they make Venice like rise up out of the water again to keep them alive.
Oh yeah, and they did the thing again, which I complained about
Oh
with
yeah,
sort of Orion, where they like explained the story's themes for you at the
Charlie
end,
did it. Yeah,
like this, yeah, like an Orphan 55 thing.
yeah. Charlie was like, she was like, "Oh, so what you're saying is that we can't rely on material value items, can we, Doctor?" And he's like,
Yeah,
"No."
yeah.
It was a bit awkward, but
She's like, "But your TARDIS, Doctor."
you've got all of that shit in the TARDIS. Have you not seen the fucking bookshelves? And she,
Yeah,
and
and he's like, "Shut up, woman."
she's like, "Shut up, that's useful stuff. Unlike you, woman." And then so that's, yeah, there was a bit of that, but I didn't think it was as bad as it was in the other instance.
Yeah,
I thought it was better done here because
I
it was
mean,
Charlie.
none of these like two times that like these Eighth Doctor audios have done it have been as bad as
Orphan.
Orphan 55.
Or
Yeah,
Praxeus a little bit. Praxeus wasn't too bad. Series 11. Series
yeah.
12
Praxis was like
It was half
more
of
subtle
yeah.
than Orphan 55 was.
But there was still the moment where they found the plastic in the birds, and they were like, "Wait, there's a little bit of plastic inside anyone because of these humans polluting the ocean."
Yes.
And it was like, "Oh, shut up." So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else that we feel the need to say?
um.
Oh, what did you think of the Dutch?
Yeah, it was alright. I did like the sort of world building in this episode of the class system between the sort of amphibians and then like the aristocrats.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good as well, and it didn't hurt that the sort of Churchwell was. I don't know where I was going with that, but
Oh.
yeah, I liked Churchwell and the Doctor's dynamic quite a lot.
Yeah.
I thought they were sort of good for each other, and I wouldn't have minded if he maybe went with Charlie and the Doctor at the end. But I felt that he was kind of a bit of a. Do you remember Perkins from Mummy on the Orient Express?
Yes.
I thought he was kind of a bit like that character. I thought he might have been a nice addition to the TARDIS team, someone a bit more conservative, unlike the Doctor and Charlie, who sort of have a 12th Doctor Clara problem where they're both very adventuring. That might end up in disaster, so we'll have to see.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just a Stones of Venice is just a solid story, just well made. The music was really good. The side performances were generally pretty like sort of all right, like not distracting
Yeah,
or anything. Yeah, I liked the world building. I liked the setting, and I liked the sort of feel of the story. And yeah, it just suffered from being a bit of a runaround and also making the themes a bit obvious in the end.
yeah. I mean, I thought, yeah, I would agree with that, but where would you like what would be the corresponding quality of a modern series episode to this one? Like, what's a episode similar in quality to this from the modern series?
Or
Maybe something like The Caretaker. I don't know.
yeah. I guess I'd give like The Caretaker and Stones of Venice the same like rating out of 10.
Yeah, or maybe
Maybe.
The Idiot's Lantern or something like that. It's just kind of. Maybe, actually, no, not The Idiot's Lantern. That's shit.
I think The Idiot's Lantern is worse than
Yeah,
Stones of Venice.
I would. Yeah, just something like
Yeah.
Cold War, Caretaker for me. That kind of same
Yeah.
quality. Not Crimson Horror.
Yeah, I'd give Stones of Venice like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, Unicorn and the Wasp kind of vibe. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd give it 7.5. So that puts it um above Storm Warning, but below sort of Orion for me.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I guess we'll be back this time next week for Minuet in Hell.
Yes, the most controversial story of this first run.
Is it?
Yeah, this is like you'll either love it or you'll hate it.
Oh well, I'm looking forward to it. It's a bit longer, isn't it? Supposedly.
Yeah, it's a 4 parts and the first episode is 45 minutes long.
Shit.
Yeah. And most of the other episodes are like 30 minutes long each.
Is it like the big finale of this Charlie arc that's coming up?
Well, yeah, I guess it like kind of functions as like yeah, I mean like it sort of positions itself as the finale episode because it's got the Brigadier and it's kind of
Oh,
like,
it does. That's good. Good.
yeah, so it's kind of like this sort of like big finale to end everything off on.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
back next Monday with Minuet in Hell, and yeah, we'll see you then. Or we'll see you this week, last week, depending on where you are in the time vortex. We
Yes.
hope you enjoyed our review. Goodbye.
Yes. Goodbye.